The Zephyrian High Council had been deliberating for 3 rotations when they finally reached their decision. Ambassador Kextal's mandibles clicked in satisfaction as he reviewed the bioweapon specifications one final time. The humans had grown, too bold, too ambitious in their expansion across the Outer Rim territories. It was time to remind these upstart mammals of their place in the galactic hierarchy. "The pathogen is perfect," whispered Chief Geneticist Velmore, her compound eyes gleaming with malicious pride. "It targets mammalian respiratory systems specifically. The humans won't even see it coming." The weapon was elegant in its simplicity, a modified virus that had already devastated 3 lesser species. It spread through air, water, and surface contact with ruthless efficiency. More importantly, it was completely unknown to human science. By the time their primitive medical systems detected it, entire colonies would be dying. Ambassador Kextal authorized the release without hesitation. Dr. Sarah Chen was enjoying her morning coffee on Luna Station when the first reports started flooding in. As the chief medical officer for the Terran Colonial Health Initiative, she'd seen her share of outbreaks, but nothing like this. "Ma'am, we're getting distress calls from 17 different colonies," reported Lieutenant Martinez, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "The symptoms are identical across all locations: severe respiratory distress, high fever, and rapid system failure. Mortality rate is approaching 90%. Sarah set down her cup with steady hands, though her mind was racing. "Timeline? First cases reported 6 hours ago. It's spreading faster than anything we've ever encountered. Within 12 hours, the plague had reached Earth itself. The halls of the Centers for Disease Control buzzed with frantic activity as samples arrived from across human space." Dr. James Okafor, Sarah's longtime colleague and the system's foremost virologist, hunched over his microscope with grim determination. "It's artificial," he announced after 4 hours of analysis. "This isn't natural evolution. Someone engineered this specifically to kill us." Sarah nodded grimly. She'd suspected as much. "How long do we have?" "At this rate of spread? Maybe 3 days before we see planetary-scale casualties. A week before we lose entire worlds." But Sarah had worked with humans her entire career. She knew something the Zephyrians had failed to account for in their careful calculations. Humans didn't surrender. They adapted. "James, patch me through to every research facility, every university, every backyard lab from here to the Centauri colonies. I want every human scientist working on this simultaneously." What happened next would have been impossible for any other species in the galaxy. Where the logical Zephyrians worked in careful hierarchical teams, humans threw everything at the problem at once. Graduate students collaborated with Nobel laureates. Military researchers shared data with civilian labs. Pharmaceutical companies released proprietary information freely. Dr. Lisa Park, a biochemist on Mars, made the first breakthrough 8 hours in. "The virus has an unusual protein structure," she transmitted to the growing network of researchers. "It's based on Zephyrian biology. They literally modified one of their own pathogens." That single insight opened floodgates. On Europa Station, Dr. Miguel Santos identified the specific enzyme the virus used to replicate. On Earth, a team at Cambridge isolated the receptor proteins it targeted. In the asteroid belt, researchers on mining platform Delta 7 discovered the virus's vulnerability to a common industrial compound. But it was Dr. Chen's 15-year-old daughter, Emma, who provided the final piece. "Mom," Emma said during one of Sarah's brief video calls home, "remember when I had that weird allergic reaction to the new air recycling filters last year? The ones with the metallic compounds?" Sarah paused, her exhausted mind suddenly snapping into focus. "The ones with zinc oxide and silver nanoparticles?" "Yeah, the same elements that mining station found hurt the virus. What if? What if the cure isn't complicated at all?" 28 hours after the first outbreak, Dr. Okafor stood before a hastily assembled team of synthesizers. "It's brilliant," he breathed. "We don't need to create a new drug. We just need to weaponize our own air filtration technology." The solution was almost embarrassingly simple: The same nanoparticle compounds humans used in everyday air purifiers could be modified into an aerosol treatment. When combined with a mild stimulant to boost immune response, it didn't just treat the infection. It made humans temporarily immune to reinfection. 36 hours after the plague began, the first batch of treatment was being distributed across human space. 48 hours in, the mortality rate had dropped to less than 5%. By the end of the third day, the Zephyrian bioweapon had been completely neutralized. Ambassador Kexetal received the news in stunned silence. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species has ever countered a targeted bioweapon so quickly." But the humans weren't finished. Dr. Chen had one more surprise. "We've analyzed the base virus thoroughly," she announced during a galactic broadcast that reached every civilized world. "It appears this pathogen was also responsible for the extinction of the Korthani, the Veliks, and the Rim peoples over the past century." The implications hit the galactic community like a shockwave. The Zephyrians hadn't just attacked humanity. They'd been systematically committing genocide for decades. "Therefore," Dr. Chen continued, "we're releasing our treatment formula freely to all species. Additionally, we've developed enhanced versions that should provide immunity to related bioweapons." Within a standard galactic month, the Zephyrian High Council faced war crimes tribunals. Their bioweapon program was dismantled, and Ambassador Kextal found himself in a detention facility, still trying to comprehend what had happened. Chief Geneticist Velmore had one final meeting with a human investigator before her own trial. "How?" she asked simply. "How did your species do in hours what should have taken years?" The human smiled grimly. "You made one critical error in your calculations. You assumed we'd react like you, logically, methodically, in isolation. But humans don't work that way. When you threaten our survival, we don't retreat into our shells and calculate odds. We throw everything we have at the problem, and we do it together." But the complexity was irrelevant. "You built your weapon to exploit our biology, but you forgot that we understand our own biology better than anyone else. We've been fighting diseases for millennia. It's what we do." 6 months later, the former Zephyrian plague had been repurposed into a broad-spectrum antiviral treatment, saving millions of lives across dozens of species. The research network that had formed during the crisis evolved into the Galactic Medical Consortium, with humans at its center. The Zephyrians had unleashed their perfect weapon, expecting to watch humanity die slowly and helplessly. Instead, they had given humans the opportunity to prove what they were truly capable of when their backs were against the wall. The galaxy would never underestimate them again.